Hello, and welcome to Tomversations, a casual conversation about technology with me, your host, Tom Hollingsworth. Today, I'd like to talk a little bit about networking, and I want to talk about something that's causing a lot of pain and frustration with people. That would be network automation. And I know as soon as I said that, you probably clutched your chest and thought to yourself, my job is in jeopardy. And if you thought that, let's talk about it a little bit today because in reality, network automation is a people problem. So let's talk about people first. Turns out, thanks to a lot of the work that's been done by machine learning and artificial intelligence researchers, we found out that people are really good at solving problems, specifically the kind of problems that involve things like creative thinking and extrapolating information without having all of the facts. So think about things like art and music. Those are creative thinking that you really can't replicate from a machine. And if you've seen any one of those posts that people have put up about things like, writing an AC/DC song by using a machine learning algorithm, or I wrote an episode of Friends by putting them all into a database, yeah, they're pretty much crap. Those are terrible attempts to replicate what machine learning can do. Machine learning, as put to me by a friend of mine, is essentially what an infinite number of people with an infinite number of Excel spreadsheets could do given enough time. That's not learning. We as human beings are really, really good at being able to think outside of the box. Because when you think about it, machine learning is all about putting things in a box. And machine learning is just a set of algorithms. So that means humans are good at solving problems, right? Well, yeah. But there's one thing that humans are actually really bad at, and that's doing jobs. Now, hold on. Before you jump into the comments and tell me that you're really, really good at your job, I want you to stop and think about something for a minute. Have you ever heard of the term beginner's luck? Beginner's luck is absolutely a real thing because it turns out that when the human brain is doing something for the very first time, it builds a series of pathways as it's learning how to do that task. You're more attentive and more likely to succeed because you've got your entire focus on things as you're creating the neural pathways required to do that job. Cool, right? Have you ever heard of task 8748th repetition luck? No, you haven't. Mostly because it's a mouthful and totally not a real thing. It turns out that once you are good at doing a job, your brain tends to shut off a little bit. Have you ever done a task that's so mind-numbing and boring that you can do it on autopilot? You can do it without even thinking? That's your brain tricking you into things. And let's be fair, we've all done this. Any one of a number of tasks that we do on a daily basis that we are so familiar with that we could do them in our sleep with our eyes closed are exactly the kind of jobs that we're actually really bad at. Because once you start doing a job basically by rote memorization, you stop building those pathways that require you to focus on things. Well, what does that lead to? Careless mistakes, oversights, the kind of boredom that makes you not go back and double check your work to make sure that you've done it correctly. The 8,000th time that you've done something is more likely to get a mistake than the first time that you've done it. And not only that, human beings are actually really bad at perception. We tend to think that we are better at doing things than machines are. How many times have you heard, oh, I'm way faster at that than this machine? Odds are almost certain you're not. But what about machines? Well, machines are not really good at creative thinking. We know that. There is never going to be a machine algorithm that's going to write the next Beethoven sonata. But machines are really good at doing what they're told. When we feed them inputs, or we feed them instructions to work within a set of inputs inside of a box, they produce the same results. Assuming the algorithm is working correctly, and all of the hardware and software are bug-free, when you put in a specific series of inputs for a task, you're going to get the same outputs every time. That's predictable. That's the boredom, the mind-numbingness of a task. Yes, you've typed that VLAN number in right 1,000 times. Well, it could be the 1,001st or the 1,008th that you screw up. Meanwhile, the machine will type in the same VLAN number you tell it to the 1st, the 50th, the 100th, the 1,000th, or the 15,000th time you tell it to do that. That's the kind of repetition that you need for boring, mind-numbing tasks. The key to network automation is actually to get people to stop doing things. Sounds easy, right? Well, that's usually where the fear starts cropping up. I don't want to lose my job. Well, yes, you don't want to lose the job you're good at doing and have been doing repeatedly, with a couple of mistakes here and there. I promise you, if you did, you would actually be a lot happier. According to a study done by SnapLogic, 90% of employees out there are doing some sort of a task that can be easily automated. 90%. You can probably think of one right now. And you're thinking to yourself, well, if they get rid of that task that I do by rote memorization every day, that means my job is going to go away. Well, not exactly. According to another research study by Goldsmith, 33% of organizations that implement network automation have happier employees. 31% of those employees feel a lot more productive. The workplace becomes much more human friendly. What do I mean by that? Well, think about all of the tasks that you do on a daily basis that require your full attention to make sure you get them right. You are not complete unless you have done everything on your checklist, right? Pretty boring. And as soon as you get done with your checklist, you're like, oh, great, I don't have anything to do today. Think about what would happen if you had the ability to focus on the things that you're good at. Creative problem solving, creative ways to enhance your work or to do something outside of the box. What if you had time on your hands? And remember, we're not talking about you losing your job. We're just talking about you losing some of the tasks that you do on a daily basis that take up time in what your real job could be. So the first thing that you need to do when you think about bringing network automation to your organization is that you have to pull people out of the process, but not out of the loop. People need to feel involved. People need to feel like they're getting things done in the system. I have referenced auto manufacturers before. When robots started doing spot welding, the humans that used to do the spot welding jobs first started checking the machines for their spot welds. And when they worked, those humans found other things to do. Maybe it's a design role. Maybe it's something as simple as learning how to fix the machines that are doing the spot welding. There's a lot of opportunity for you to retrain or to re-envision what your role will be once the tasks that you're doing are being taken on by something that, well, let's be fair, never calls in sick and never makes mistakes. You also have to show the value of automation. Now, I've been talking a little bit about showing the value of automation to people who are most directly affected by it. But you also have to show the value of automation up and down the stack. And let's be fair, the hardest sell that you're going to have is in the boardroom. The executives are going to want to automate everything that you do and then get rid of you, right? That's their job, is to cut costs and drive the stock price up. Well, guess what? People have value. Think back to the beginning of the video when I told you that people have value doing things like creative thinking or solving problems with incomplete information. Network automation is a huge new frontier. Just because I can train an algorithm or a script to do something over and over and over again doesn't mean that I'm going to be able to make it reliably work 100% of the time on every piece of hardware that I deploy it on with absolutely no errors. There are still going to be problems to solve. The executives have to see that people have value doing things that people are good at, and software and automation algorithms have value at the things that they're good at. And if you let the people do the things that they're good at, then overall, it's more valuable for the company. But don't screw that up. Don't have people doing things that software is good at, and don't for a second think that software can replace all of your people. Yes, I'm talking to you, Mr. CEO. You are still going to have breathing humans in your organization for a very long time to come. Here's an easy way to prove value for network automation. Automate the easy stuff first. Maybe it's a task you do every day that's mind-numbing and boring and takes 5 minutes every morning. Automate that. Make sure it works. Make sure it can run without your attention. So let's say it takes 5 minutes every morning, 5 days a week. So that's 5 times 5 is 25. Times 50 weeks a year, because you're on vacation a couple weeks a year, I hope. That's 1,250 minutes every year that you're working on that task. Right? Divide that by 60 because there are 60 minutes in an hour, and you have almost 21 hours that you do this task every year. That's half a work week that you can save by automating. Now, you saved time, but the company saved money. Now, they didn't really save money because they're still using you, But those 5 minutes a morning, you can do something else. You can send an email to a customer and potentially get a new sale, or you can work on a really hard problem that increases shareholder equity or something that they want to hear. The fact of the matter is, if you automate the easy stuff first, you can show value. Now, how do you get buy-in? Well, you automate the hard stuff. The more time you spend building automation systems to automate the hard or the one-off things that only have to happen every once in a while, the more you show the real value. If you're going to spend the next 6 months of your career trying to automate yourself out of a job, so to speak, you're still employed for 6 months. And let's be fair, the more complicated those automation algorithms get, the more likely they are to need someone as intelligent and brilliant as you to be able to fix them. So automation is still a people problem, because I promise you, there isn't an automation script on this planet that's going to be able to debug the genius that you come up with. And lastly, if you want to create a really friendly environment for people, give them an opportunity to grow. Give them training. Give them some form of buy-in to want to continue. You probably heard the old adage, what happens if we train our people and they leave? What happens if we don't train them and they stay? This is a hard one for companies to solve. But giving you the resources to learn a new task, to learn a new role, even if it's just working on the automation algorithms that have replaced you, you've expanded your skill set. And honestly, you're probably a happier person because of it. If you have something that's taking care of the mind-numbing, brainless, boring work that you have to do every day, you're probably more likely to think freely and engage and really come into your own when it comes to work. I think that's going to make everyone a whole lot happier in the long run. And you'll have a more productive environment. You'll have a more friendly environment. You'll have fewer mistakes, and you'll have much better allocation of resources. Let's be fair. People can be problems. Automation solves problems. Figuring out how to get the people to solve the automation problems makes automation less of a people problem. All right, that should just about do it for this episode. Thank you very much for tuning in. I hope you've been following along with the series. We're going to be covering a variety of different topics with every episode, so stay tuned. If you have any ideas of any topics that you'd like to cover, please make sure to drop me a line on our website at gestaltit.com. It's the easiest way to get a hold of me. You can also tune in and see some more great video features, including Gestalt IT Checksum, a weekly news series from my friend Rich Stroffolino, who's doing some amazing work. So be sure to check out Checksum and leave him your thoughts. But for now, thanks for tuning in for this Tomversation. I hope to be having another one with you very soon.